All right, Jeff and Veronica, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure.
I'm excited to talk to you about a few things. Talk to you about courage, and marriage and ministry. Uh, you guys have the love big, love wide movement, and so I want to learn more about that. But before we dive into that, I'll ask you to share with listeners your background. And as a marriage counselor, I'm always curious about how people met too.
Well, I understand that same desire, but you want to start? Me start?
Okay.
You start.
Okay. My name is Veronica. I am one of 5 children, come from a family of 1 of 5, 2 sisters and 2 brothers. I am the middle child, and I'm a wife, a mother, and I have 2 bonus sons. And I work in the medical billing field for reproductive endocrinology. And I've pretty much been in the medical field forever, for as far back as I can, go. So.
My turn?
Yeah.
So yeah, Jeff Ortiz. I am a husband and a father, and I've been remarried. So this is my second marriage. I have 2 bonus daughters. So we have Michelle, Samantha, Brandon, and Ryan, all 3 years apart, except for at the end, they're 4 years apart. The boys are 4 years apart. For work, I get the honor and the privilege to work as a licensed marriage and family therapist. So work with a lot of individuals and the couples and help them through the healing process of whatever they're going through, figuring out ways to navigate life and understand how the past is kind of showing up in their lives, and creating an awareness around that and strategies to address it while also addressing present day significant traumas or relationships or like mental illnesses. I mean, depression and anxiety, it's pretty strong right now considering everything that everybody's going through. So yeah, I do that on a daily basis. But I think my goal in life is to love, being a man of faith. So I'm a Christian counselor, and just being a man of faith and helping others. That is my goal, and empowering men. I got a real strong heart for the men, and to help them navigate the world we live in, and really give them a place to take their place. And so, what that looks like at times, it's different from each relationship to relationship. So yeah. I just have that heart's desire, and this is where we're at right now. So here in Southern California currently, plans to move down the road.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But your heart for men, that's why we're kindred spirits. Before I became a counselor, I was thinking about being an Army chaplain, or a military chaplain, and I found out I'm not much of a preacher when I went through seminary the first time, so I shifted gears to counseling, but still want to encourage men, encourage fathers, encourage dads. And so you're helping couples navigate life, and like you said, pandemic has been hard with mental health and with marriages. But in this last year, you guys, on top of that, even had your own challenge. So, but before we dive into that, how did you guys meet?
Mm-hmm. Good question.
So my coworker of many, many years, her husband and Jeff here went to the same church and played on the same softball team for the church. And she said, "Hey, I've got someone I'd like you to meet. You guys have similar stories. You're both divorced. You both have kids. If anything, a friendship just to, have someone to talk to about, life that you've kind of gone through already." And so I just kind of said, I don't know. I've gone on a couple of dates, and they were one date only. And that was it. I was done. And I just said, you know what, God, I'm going to leave it in your hands. when you're ready to send me the right man, then, you know, I will patiently wait. And I didn't know what was going to come of it, but I told her, you know, why not? Sure. You know, I'll meet him and see what we can talk about and what we have in common. And, you know, we'll go from there.
And it was funny on the other side. I basically the same story, like had gone on a couple of dates, and since the divorce, and it'd been a couple years, 2 or 3 years, and I was single, you know, raising the boys, spending time. So I was like, would I like to be in another relationship? Sure. But it wasn't like a pressing desire. And my friend texts me, and she's like, you know, the same friends. And
matchmaker.
So, yeah. And so I'm like, I asked the most vain thing I could probably ask. I'm like, well,
oh no.
You know, I said, would you have a picture of her? Like, so no. But hey,
yeah.
But hey, I mean, Veronica didn't know at the time, or maybe she did. I have no idea. I'm like, do you at least have a picture? And so, and then of course the friend sends a family picture. So it's got Veronica, her 2 sisters, her 2 brothers, and her dad. So I'm like, looking at the picture, I'm like, well, if it's the one in the corner of the picture, I said, I'll say yes. And so sure enough, she was in the corner of the picture. So that's how that part got rolling. And then, you know, we started talking, and then, you know, I think going through divorce and the similarities and just the process and how we saw life after it, really God used that to bring us together. And you know, I interviewed her for like 3 or 4 months.
Literally interviewed.
We didn't even call it dating process yet. It was more
goodness.
like yeah.
Yes, because we hadn't seen each other or met face to face. It was purely over the phone or text messaging
for the first couple of weeks.
For a little bit of time. And then as I got interviewed, I think I got closer and closer to, okay, maybe a formal meeting.
But a lot of that, I mean, I even in person was interviewing you.
Yeah,
like
course.
that. Yeah. So having gone after going through counseling, because when I went through the divorce, I went through a lot of counseling, and I really healed up a lot of my past and really forgave myself for the husband that I wasn't, and the husband that I was in the previous relationship. And I did a lot of healing from my past childhood, past relationship with my mom, and you know, the past marriage. So it's a lot of things had changed, but I knew that I wanted to be with somebody who had done that work as well, you know. And so it was, I asked a lot of questions, and I'm like, well, if she says yes to this, says yes to this. So there, unfortunately for her, there were some interview episodes in there. But I mean, obviously we passed them. We both passed them, because I'm sure she had her own too. Trust me, I'm sure she had them.
So you were being understanding, Veronica, of his being careful.
Most definitely. I was starting to get a little impatient, but I think it was well worth, you know, the questions going back and forth, just to really know, because, you know, we didn't want to introduce our kids to any other, you know, maybe date or significant other until we knew that we were a good fit, and that we were gonna, you know, continue dating and possibly get married down the road. We didn't want to, you know, mix them up with any of that. So we were really cognizant
You're
of
thinking of the kids too.
Mm-hmm.
How old were the kids when you guys met?
At the time, I think 16, 13, 10, and 6. Yeah, because Ryan was young.
Yeah, 6.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had 2 were in high school, or one was in high school, one was starting high school, one was about to start middle school, and the other one elementary.
Yeah.
So, and then the girls were with us majority of the time, and then the boys would consistently, like, they would be with us. Sometimes they'd be with mom. But in the divorce, we went from the San Gabriel Valley to Orange County, California. So when their mom moved there, I was like, well, I'm not going to be just a weekend dad and still live over here in San Gabriel Valley. Excuse me. So I moved to Orange County, lived about a mile away from them. So I just didn't want that to impact them in a negative way.
Nice.
So, yes, I mean, when we're dating, you know, I had that. Sometimes I had both boys, sometimes I had one boy. It just depended. In divorce, things can get a little hairy, and, you know, there's a lot of emotions in it. So I was trying to make the best of everything and focusing on the kids as much as possible. So,
yeah. And those ages, at least for your daughters, Veronica, they're old enough to have opinions.
Oh, yeah, yes, and they did. Yeah, that was fun. But you know, they were good. They understood, and they did not want mom to be alone. You know, they were understanding. They wanted me to have, you know, a friend or many, you know, companionship, and kind of to have my own life outside of just life with the girls. So they were very understanding, but just like Jeff, you know, they were my main priority, taking them, you know, to school and to gymnastics and cheer with the help of, you know, my mom and dad and siblings, you know, pitching in and helping. So, you know, we made the best of the situation that we were in, and the girls were definitely a challenge at times, but in the, you know, when I look back, it was a blessing. I mean, they were really good and really understanding.
Great. At that time, had you done your training for marriage and family therapy?
I was in the middle of it. So I was still working in the other field. So I was doing HVAC work, quality control. So doing a lot of construction projects, getting like the schools ready and that sort of thing. So I was still doing that full time, going to school full time, and then starting to see clients. And then once I started doing the practicum, then I had to back off the work, and work was always good with me. It was a family business from the previous marriage. So they were always really flexible because they pushed education, and even though it wasn't in their field, they were always happy and supportive of me. And nice. I felt like I did good work there. So it wasn't, you know, contentious at all. So yeah, it was it was a challenge because, like, you know, you're learning about certain things, you're learning about family dynamics and blended families, and I'm like, oh, here we are. You're
learning what you need to learn.
Right, exactly. But then like it gets into that realm of like, I'm still dad and stepdad and husband, so there's like a lot of hats to wear in this. And I'm like, I know I can't bring out the therapy hat because I'm still learning it. And first of all, like the one that naturally wants to come out is dad, and so or husband. And so it's just all the family dynamics. And I really think we learned a lot on the fly, and really being attentive to the needs of the family. So or very early on after we got married, I had an interaction with one of the girls, and she let me have it. And rightfully so. I think, you know, my expectations and her reality didn't line up, and she let me have it. And so I was like, oh, okay. I learned real quick that they already have a dad. I can be something different. And I didn't put pressure on myself to show up to try to be their dad. From that point forward, what I did was I tried to show up and be Jeff, and let them interpret what that looked like. They know I'm married to their mom. They know I have 2 boys, and I'm available to love them if they allow me to love them. I'm available to help support them and encourage them if they want me to do so. But when they call me Jeff or they call me Jeffrey, to me, that's the same as them as if I were their dad. And so I just stopped putting my expectations on it, and gave them the freedom to enter the relationship however they wanted to. I was always nice, always cordial. We had our moments, because there was times where we lived in a 2-bed, like at the beginning, we lived in a 2-bedroom apartment as we're looking to buy a house the first 2 months of our marriage.
The 6 of you.
The 6 of us. And so it was just like living on each other. We had 2 kids out in the living room and another one in the bedroom. It was just, it's crazy. It's funny. Every time we talk about this, I forget all about the craziness of blending the family. So, you know, we learned a lot about, okay, boundaries, you know, being cordial to one another, loving each other, and just being patient through this whole process. We'll get through it. And there was a lot of fun times in that too, because, you know, a lot of late nights and goofing around and playing games, and it really learning each other. And I think that helped, being in such a small space. Nobody can run off into another space. Like, we're all together, and we would either watch TV or we play a game or talk. It just felt,
you had to work it out.
Yeah. There was no place to hide, really. So it was good. It was really good. I think that after that first 2 months of being in the apartment and then moving into the house, it really kind of set the table for us and how to navigate, like who's going to use the shower, who's going to.
You were like forced to communicate and resolve conflict, and then you could spread out.
Yeah,
that's right. That's exactly right. And it even came down to what we're watching on TV, like, because I think at that time we only had one TV, and so it was, there was a lot going on. But, you know, I think God's presence in it, and just keeping everything slow, not be very reactive, more relational, trying to stay relational. And then, you know, with the teenagers, they're, you know, they have their hormones going on, and they have a desire, and there's like, okay, we definitely have to work.
So God put you in school to like learn these listening skills, and
He sure did
to deal with all that stuff.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And it, you know, in my upbringing that I've shared, you know, many times, but I was an angry individual growing up. And so for me to present as a good listener and soft and not being, reactive, but more relational, that helped me in that work too. And to be quite honest, watching her do it, like, I thought I made progress, and then I watched her, and I'm like, how do you not say anything back? Like, when they say that, I'm thinking they're talking to my wife like that. Yeah. And she just calm, and she's like quiet assassin, this one. She's just quiet, and I'm like, she's gonna get him back, but they don't even know. And I'm like, I don't even know, but I just so surprised how relational she remained, and, you know, handling those at times intense interactions. I learned a lot from her.
Nice. For you, Veronica, what are some things that stood out in terms of blending the family? Like, if for any listeners and moms who are maybe dating again or getting remarried, what would you say to them?
Well, definitely for me, it was, you know, with the dating, I never, you know, had the girls interact with anybody. Like the 2 dates that I went on, I always did that when they were with their dad. I made it, you know, when I didn't have the girls, I didn't want to interrupt their daily lives and, you know, school and cheer and gymnastics and everything they were going through. So, you know, I kind of did that on my own time. And then basically, like Jeff said, when we had conflict, it hurt more me and had my stomach in knots if I were going to yell back at them or, you know, just kind of get on their case on whatever it may be. And I just kind of took a step back, and, you know, after we had both calmed down, or all three of us had calmed down, either talk about it or, you know, go into the one, you know, take one into a room and just really sit down and just be like, hey, you know, that's not cool. You know, let's talk about this. You know, you're obviously angry for a reason. And I would just try to take a step back. I think previously, when I was previously married to their dad, it was a lot more of, you know, the yelling and, you know, why are you doing this and why are you doing that?
The
and
back and forth.
A lot from that. So I just kind of learned that, you know what, I need to step back because it's not worth it. It's not accomplishing anything but getting me more upset. So with that, you know, that's huge. The other thing with having everybody in one house, I wasn't a maid, and everybody, you know, I had to let everybody know that, you know, I'm here to be supportive. I'm here to be mom. I'm here to be, you know, stepmom, but a relationship, like Jeff said, as much as the boys wanted to have a relationship, you know, it was a little harder for me to interact with all of the kids at the same time. I had to kind of take it in stride and learn how to do it, because it was a big change for me, having two girls and now having two boys in the
Was
house.
it overwhelming at times?
Yes, very much so. And so I just, you know, kind of learned that, you know, hey, Jeff, if, you know, if I have an issue with one of the boys, I'm going to come to you and let you talk to them and handle it. And if, you know, there's an issue with the girls, you know, you come to me and I'll handle it with the girls. And of course, this was much after the blow up that Jeff had with one of the girls, and she let him have it. So I just thought, you know, let's just kind of figure this out behind closed doors, how we're going to manage this and not involve the kids until we kind of figure out how we're going to manage it. And then I would manage with my girls and he would manage with the boys. And it seemed to work really well. So we kind of stuck to that
Nice.
game plan. And the other thing is, you know, I told the kids, I said, you know, you guys are all tall enough and old enough to reach the washer and the sink, and everybody had 3 towels and they each had their own color. And I said, you know, these are your towels when you want to shower. You know, if you want to have them all over the floor, you know, dirty, or in your hamper, dirty and stinky, and that's what you want to use, then that's on you. I have my own laundry to do. So, you know, you guys, you're going to be in charge of your own laundry, and these are your towels. And the other thing was dishes. I did not like going to bed with dishes in the sink. And when there's 6 of you, you know, 6 of us in the house, and one's, you know, needs a little snack here and another needs a snack there because of scheduling, sports schedules, or, you know, any of that going on, I just said, you know what, I can't. So everybody got their own plate and bowl and cup, and they knew which ones were theirs. And if they wanted to eat when we were all ready to eat, their plates and their cups and everything needed to be clean and available for them to eat. And
you had to take responsibility for your stuff.
Yes. Yes.
No one else was going to do it for you.
Yes. And I was very firm on that. And, you know, everybody learned that that's what they needed to do. So.
Right. I like that. Like you were clear, you were firm, but you weren't like, you didn't have to yell or like be reactive. But you knew what you wanted. You set up like your expectations and some rules and guidelines, and but you coached them. You taught them how to do that.
Yeah, we really did. It was not easy and sometimes a little messy, but we tried to stick to that plan for sure.
Yeah, it's neat. You guys were able to be unified in that and get on the same page. So much of blended family. It is hard to figure out those boundaries with being a step parent, and so much of that conflict can really damage the marriage. Yeah.
Well, I think.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, you guys just being on the same team from the start.
Definitely.
Yeah. And even when we would say like, hey, like this is something that I see with the girls or she sees with the boys, when it got presented, it came from us. We didn't say like, oh, Veronica said that, you know, you got to do this and this and this. No, because we're on the same team. So I'm like, hey, you know, these things need to be addressed because it's part of how we're running the family, and this is structure we expect, and you know, this is your role in it. And so we would just talk that way. It was never putting her down, and it wasn't even putting them down. It was just, if we're gonna be part of this team together, then we're gonna have to work together, and part of working together is you doing your part, and I have to follow through with you doing your part because you're not doing it. So here I am in the middle. So I know one of the things that, because I used to be very reactive and yell and scream at the boys, you know, in the first part of their life. And so as I was learning a lot about myself, I realized, oh, I don't have to yell and scream. I could actually just talk to them. Veronica modeled a lot of that for me. So then I actually began like spending a lot of time with the boys, explaining and talking about what they did and figuring out new strategies on how to do it differently. That's probably all the schooling that I was learning. And so I later find out that they were giving me a hard time. I don't know. They're both out of the high school by this time. And they said, yeah, we used to talk back and forth about getting one of Dad's long lectures. I'm like, oh, well, I'd rather you talk about that than some of the stuff that I did in your early years, like yelling and screaming and losing control, you know, and not showing up in a godly way. So it was neat that that shift, all that work, you know, that I had done personally, and then observing Veronica and, you know, really brought out the relational component. So that way you know, the boys want to have a relationship with me, you know, and they don't have to. They're, you know, they're grown now. They could totally do their own thing. So that part I value very much.
Yeah. Veronica, you helped Jeff become a better dad. That's awesome.
For sure. Oh, yeah. I tell her all the time.
Yeah. And, you know, I got the same, you know, he interacted with all of the kids, you know, equally. It was never favoritism toward the girls or the boys, you know, the rules were the rules. And so, you know, I learned a lot from him as well. It was hard, no doubt. It was definitely hard. And being on the same page, same team was to our benefit.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
definitely.
Nice. You guys are the only couple, the first couple that I've had where one is a therapist. So I'm curious.
Here it comes.
What's that been like for you, Veronica, to be married to a therapist, and how has his work like affected your family?
It's been interesting. I've learned a lot from him. You know, sometimes he wants to shrink me, is what I say. You know what? Don't shrink me. Let's just talk about this. Or if it's something you don't like that I'm doing, let's talk about it. Because I'm not going to respond well if you're trying to treat me like a client.
So how do you know that's happening? Is it like a certain tone of voice, or
tell him? I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's kind of talking, using the words. Let's reframe this. Let's, you know, just some of the words that y'all use that, you know, I wasn't used to hearing until he started school. I mean, yes. I did hear that going through therapy myself, but hearing it from your husband was just, I didn't want to be shrinked. Let's just sit down.
You're like, that's stuff my therapist said. Like, nice. Yeah. All our therapist friends that are listening, they're like taking notes right now. Yeah.
So, but I appreciate his wisdom and, you know, everything that he's learned in school and with his clients, you know, different, you know, different issues, or, you know, like he's just very wise in his words and how he's gentle with them and not accusing and, you know, how can we work on this and how can we fix this? Just very loving in the way he, you know, wants to help me better myself. Maybe if I'm doing something, you know, that's, you know, not quite in line with the way I should be doing or the way I'm speaking. So I do appreciate that. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Always gentle and loving.
Jeff is super encouraging.
Definitely.
Yeah.
He's sometimes a little bit too happy. Encouragement is wonderful. Sometimes he's a little too happy and it's a little too much for me. He does wake up every morning, always happy. I finally got him to stop waking up and singing, you know, because I was still trying to sleep and I wasn't ready to get up. And every morning, you know, happy and singing and waiting for the day to begin. And I wasn't quite there yet. I'm not quite the morning person. Give me enough sleep, and then let's talk.
You needed an outlet. You needed Instagram to like pump people up and
That's right. That's
share the joy, but let your wife sleep in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What is besides working with couples? Do you have other specialties that you
So
focus
couples, men, and what's been great this past season of life is younger men, ones that have graduated high school, maybe in college or in those college years. I've had some great clients in that age group, and so I don't know what category we call them. I just call them the younger men in their 20s, and
Yeah.
Coming in with that desire to grow into their own personhood, and what does that look like, and the potential, and it's maybe bringing up some past traumas that they've experienced they're playing a role in their lives. Then we do the psychodynamic way of work and uncover some of the relationships that they've had that may be playing a role in how they show up to life. So that age group has been good.
Yeah. Gen Z.
Gen Z, okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's so many gens.
I tell her, I said, I try to stay away from labels and groups, and I'm like, if they're coming to see me, they're my people. Yes. I don't care how
the guys that are like in your son's age group.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They truly are. Anytime I'm talking to the boys' friends, it's just like I'm just trying to connect with them and see where they're at. If they'll let me in, if they won't let me in, whatever. Yeah. But it's been I would say this past year, since all this stuff's been going on, having some of those clients has been really great. And then men that are in blended families. So, that are stepfathers and working through, and they have challenging relationships with their wife, and understanding their role, and, help empowering them to see their role differently, maybe a little more realistic than what they're coming to the relationship with,
right?
And reducing those.
Don't make the mistake I made.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Reduce those expectations.
Yeah.
And let's let you be you. Add to the value of the family. Add to the value of your stepdaughters or stepsons. Not force it. And the key, I've been finding more and more for men, not taking it personal.
Right.
The rejection.
When you were saying that story, that's what came to mind is, taking it personal.
Taking it personal.
When you said you were gonna just let them decide how they wanted to respond to you, be available to them, and not take it personal, what they could or couldn't give you, you know, or how they wanted to connect with you. Yeah. So that's so good. That age group, I started counseling 15 years ago, and when you're starting out, like, I don't, you don't have much life experience under your belt, and people are like, your clients are like 3 years younger than you, or 5 years younger, and then now like my clients are like younger than my kids, and that just makes me feel like a dad. It's like the stage of counseling, right? Where you really kind of have that like that father's heart for your clients,
exactly,
to bring them along. And
in my opinion, it helps to your benefit, because they're going to sense that, and when they know that you care about them, then that's when they really want to work on themselves. So they have somebody showing up for them. It's neat.
Yeah. So to shift gears a little bit, can we talk about what that was like last year for you guys, Veronica, to get your your diagnosis, and can uh can can you kind of share like what you were feeling before you found out, like what
Sure.
that was like?
Yeah. So basically, I found a lump in my breast, and of course, right away, I had worked in an OBGYN office for 20 years, and so I knew I had to call, get an appointment, get it checked out. And fortunately, I still have several good friends that still work in the office that I worked in for many, many years. And so I had texted her, and actually, she's the one that set us up. And so she's still there. And, she said, absolutely, we'll get you an appointment. We'll get you in here. So I was in the next day getting checked out and scheduling for a mammogram. I went probably a week later for my mammogram. They did find the lump. At that point, they wanted to go ahead and do a biopsy. So I did go ahead and schedule. And that was maybe a week later. I got a biopsy done. And this was almost a year to the date. They had done the biopsy. And after this long weekend, Memorial Weekend, I was waiting for my test results last year. And so I believe Wednesday came and my doctor had called me, and just to take 2 steps back, knowing that I had already had the positive mammogram and the biopsy done, I was scared. I was really scared, not knowing if it was going to be benign or if it was going to be cancer. I have seen so many patients go through this process working at an OBGYN office, and I knew that was a real possibility. So as the days led up closer to getting my result, I knew it wasn't going to be over the weekend. I knew it was going to be that following week, one of those days. At that point, I was just like, okay, God, I'm going to leave it up to you. If it is positive for cancer, then you have a plan. And, I will, however it turns out, I'm going to leave it in your hands. Everything to this date, I've always left in his hands. My going through a divorce, raising the girls as a single mom, getting married, just God has a plan for us. And so, that Wednesday came and my physician called me and she told me, that I was positive. It was definitely, breast cancer. And she had referred me to a surgeon, and we got on the horn getting that scheduled, and everything just kind of fell in place. Went to the surgeon. From the surgeon, she sent me to the oncologist, and just like clockwork, boom, 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 everything was just going. It was a whirlwind. Just so many appointments, and what am I doing next? And I need to get on top of this so that we can get going. And my diagnosis was stage 2A triple negative. So it was stage 2. It was not in my lymph nodes yet, but it was triple negative, which is a little more aggressive than some of the other breast cancers. So I just knew that, God was telling me that I need to get on the horn and let's get this taken care of.
You knew how serious it was because of your experience.
But at the same time, I was grateful because it was the 2A, it hadn't spread to my lymph nodes. So, getting that diagnosis and just being, so overwhelmed and so, upset and mad to, okay, God, let's do this, let's get this taken care of.
Yeah. So you are you're in the medical field, so you know all these terms and maybe even like prognosis and treatment options. How is this for you, Jeff, when all this was going down and happening really fast?
Yeah, I mean, I'm the avoider type, so it wasn't until I heard like it was confirmed, I was just hopeful that and avoiding that, it'd be benign and okay, it'd be done. I don't think I ever thought that it would be cancer and we'd have to go through the whole ordeal that we went through. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, when she was on the phone call, I was actually starting a virtual session at home. So I saw her go outside, and none of it clicked until afterwards. And so she goes outside, and Samantha was here visiting, and Samantha was there. So when I got done with the session, I come out, and then Samantha's leaving, and I see Veronica outside and on the patio, and I'm like thinking, did they get in a fight? Like, I'm like, what happened? Because it seemed rushed. Everything
you could feel something was going on.
Definitely something was going on. And then, so when I went outside and I saw her face, and I'm like, it hit me. Like, it hit me that she went outside, took a phone call. She was supposed to get the phone call from the doctor. And so I just remember saying, I'm like, no. And she just nodded yes. And I just remember saying, no. Like, I just kept saying no over again, trying to get to that place of acceptance. And man, it was tough. That night was tough. It was very, very tough to know that. I mean, because then it's like, okay, what do we do? Like, because we didn't have all the answers for treatment. We just know it's tested positive. So we got to go meet with these doctors, and how bad is it? Where is it? There's this, the way, and being a therapist, like, we constantly tease out the what if, like, it's, where our clients are at. It's like the what if this and what if that. And so I try to be mindful to stay away from the what if, but the reality is she has cancer. So I just try to do my best to leave it at that and not take it any further until I hear from the doctor. And so, yeah, it was now at that point, it's scary, because then we got to share with people, and we got to share with our families and let them know. And the kids, we got to tell them. I mean, Samantha knew that night, first one, but we got to tell the kids, and yeah, there's just a lot of what ifs going through.
You got to tell folks, but there's so much unknown.
Exactly.
At the same time. Yeah. So it's almost like in the medical sense, you almost know too much, Veronica, and then Jeff, like, like anxiety and shock and depression and grief and all that, and but even though you know all this, it's still hurting and it's still affecting you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So so in that moment, kind of scary until you found out the 2A, so you had surgery, and then what was treatment like after the surgery?
Well, first and foremost, God blessed us with such a wonderful team. The surgeon was fantastic. Dr. Carpenter, my oncologist, Dr. Otis, and her team, her staff, just fantastic. And my radiation oncologist, wonderful. And it just so happens that all three women were Christian women and, love the Lord as much as, as much as we do. And we couldn't have asked for a better team.
There's
so
comfort there.
Yes. So I started off with chemotherapy, and the first 8 weeks were the absolute hardest, because it was a pretty strong medication. The nickname for it is the Red Devil. And my sister quickly told me, nope, you're not getting the Red Devil. This is, what did she say? Jesus, a soldier coming in. So we rephrased it from the Red Devil to Jesus, a soldier coming in, and fighting. So I started off with that for the first 8 weeks, and had the first treatment. I was still working. We had already gone remote, so I was already working from home.
Oh, wow.
Doing billing from home. And I did my first treatment just to kind of see what was going to happen and if I was going to be able to continue working. And no, it didn't happen. I had my treatment, and they give you steroids with the first treatment. So when I finished that day, I was all like busy and running around, and I got to do laundry, and I need to do this and that. And we couldn't figure out like why, was I full of energy when I just had my first chemo treatment? Well, it's the steroids that they had given me.
Sensitivity to the steroids. Is that
yes
affecting your sleep?
So the steroids had allowed me, they had given me that strength, and I don't know exactly how to explain it, but once I was coming off the steroids, then I crashed hard, and I probably slept for a good 3.5 days, only waking up to use the restroom and maybe have a few sips of water. So I had to take, was it 6 weeks off work? 6 weeks off work.
You can't work like that. You're just out. Yeah.
There was no way. Yes. So I took 6 weeks off work, and work was great. I mean, again, they understood. Not a question. Absolutely. So I did that for the first 6 weeks. After the first 6 weeks, then they changed my medication for 12 weeks, consecutive weeks. And this was a different medication called Taxol. And I kind of had started going back to work at that point. And I think I had the first Taxol, and that was the last week that I was going to be home and on disability. So I had it, and I was waiting for the knockout, and it didn't come. I was tired, but it did not knock me out. So I thought, okay, if this is how I'm going to react to this, then I think I can go back to work. So I did. I ended up going back to work for the next 12 weeks through those chemo treatments. And, my team of coworkers were awesome. They took as much as they could so that I could, if I needed to take a little extra, couple minutes of not answering a phone call, then I did. They took those phone calls. So they were wonderful. And so I did the next 12 weeks of that. I finished that October 28th. I was done with my chemotherapy. They wanted my body to rest for the next month. So I just continued working, but nothing, strenuous. Napped pretty much on the weekends. It was COVID, so we weren't going anywhere, weren't seeing any family. Then I had surgery in December, and that's when I got my diagnosis back from the pathology report showing that the chemotherapy had done its job, and I had a complete pathological occurrence. Like, it was wiped out. There was no sign of cancer in the lymph nodes that the physician took, that Dr. Carpenter took out, or the breast tissue. Completely gone. So it was amazing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
amazing.
The surgery was after the
yes.
chemo, the 2 rounds.
So I had the chemo first, and after even just the second session of the strong chemo, I had told Jeff, I said, the lump is going down. I said, maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like it's going down. So, God is good. And he started, diminishing that lump with that first set of treatment. And it was amazing. Hard, very, very hard. But once I had surgery and we got that pathology report back, which happened to be on my birthday, December 23rd, we went in for my post-op, and the doctor didn't even sit us down. She said, come on in. She kind of, she said, I have great news.
She couldn't wait to tell you.
She couldn't. She was so excited. And, we were so excited. I thought this is going to be either a really great birthday and Christmas, or it's going to really stink. And it turned out to be a great Christmas gift and birthday gift. So, yeah. So finished that, let my body rest another month. And then I had to start radiation treatment to kill any cells that just may have happened to have wandered. So I had 20 sessions, consecutive days of radiation treatment. And again, I, worked through that and had
was that the radiation painful? My father, he had colon cancer and had to, he didn't have chemo, but he had radiation, and it was tough.
For me, it was, I had a lot of fatigue, and it was like a very bad sunburn on my whole, like starting from under my armpit, just in the whole breast area, like to the mid section. And it pretty much ended up, fortunately, I didn't have any blistering or anything like that, but it was very sunburned and very sensitive to the touch. But I thought, managed. I just kept saying to myself, this is nothing different than if I'd gotten a bad sunburn, which I've done in the past out at the river. So let's just keep going, keep it positive. Yes, it hurt. Yes, it was uncomfortable, but I knew I had to do it. I didn't have a choice. This was part of my care that I knew I needed to do. I did it. And, we part of this whole journey was just having so much support, so much love, so much support, so many encouraging words. And again, I wasn't on any social media. So Jeff took that into his hands and gave posts every week, as often, letting everybody know what was going on, how I was feeling, and just was amazing. We were just so overwhelmed. He let me know all of the responses, and, the meals that people sent, and just the overwhelming love. We're normally used to being on the other side, offering support and, sharing the love and, doing whatever we can do, but we were on that receiving end. And that was really difficult to be on the receiving end, because we weren't used to that. So, it was a tough journey. And, Jeff did an amazing job of taking care of me and, just supporting me and loving me through it all. And he was strong. I think after going through everything, I was so busy fighting in the midst of it that finally, after all of my treatment, because I probably only finished about a month ago, finishing physical therapy. And that's finally when I just broke down, and I just was so overwhelmed by everything I had gone through that I was like, oh my God, what's going on with me? Okay, you're the
emotional impact.
Yes. I'm like, you're the therapist. What's going on with me?
Yeah, now she wants me to show up as a therapist.
Now I want him to shrink me.
So that's, we talked about what you just said. Like, you were in fight mode all that time. And so you didn't give yourself an opportunity to feel and process like the emotional side of what was transpiring. And so now you're there. So you fought physically, but now that there's no more fight, it's like, okay, what do I do with all these pieces of what I just experienced? And so she's since been starting to see a therapist, and whose name is not Jeff Ortiz. And she's working through those things and, talking about what the experience has been like for her, and, healing, I'm not in those conversations, so I can only imagine like the healing part, the emotional healing part of this process, and, what that is like for her.
Yeah. In your work with your therapist, Veronica, do they kind of like structure it or frame it as having gone through trauma? It's like the treatment that you've gone through.
She hasn't said trauma. She's just been really helping me with just trying to get my life back on track. I have a lot of anxiety, and she's trying to help me work through that and just kind of work through, I don't know what name it would be under, or, but just trying to work through the emotion and reduce my anxiety and just trying to move forward from here, because a lot of people that are diagnosed with any kind of cancer, you know, we always have that fear. Well, what if it comes back? Well, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this. Does that mean, you know, something else is happening? Am I getting a cancer somewhere else? Because that's always a very, you know, it's a possibility. And on the flip side, it's a possibility that you're not going to, you know, have another cancer or any, you know, have it come back or anywhere else. So they're both very real. And that's what she's trying to help me work through. And she's done a great job. I really appreciate her wisdom, and just, you know, sometimes it's just all crying, you know, and she just lets me kind of do my thing, and then we talk about it and, you know, how I feel, and she's been really great. So I appreciate her.
Yeah. With the treatment, it was months, and so one of the things, Jeff, that you did was post updates and ask for prayer. What, as a husband, what has this been like, this to see Veronica go through this?
There we go.
This is where it gets difficult.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's to see somebody go through what she went through and not to be able to save them from it. I mean, how am I going to really save her from it anyway? Watching her body respond to some of this medication, those weekends when she was knocked out, I was like, I would see her wake up, but I knew she really wasn't there. So I was like, okay, what do you need? Food? Do you need water? Because it was just me waiting in the living room, listening for her to move. And take care of her, because it wasn't going to be long. She was going to get up for a little bit, maybe use the restroom, maybe drink something. She wasn't going to eat.
But you wouldn't know when. So
yeah.
You just had to wait.
I would be there. I would be waiting for it. So middle of night, middle of the day, I'm just waiting, like listening for. And so, you know, that was hard, seeing her, just the glazed eyes and how she responded physically. That was tough.
That was 8 weeks.
8 weeks. 8 weeks. And it's like the first week was the hardest, and then the second week was more of a recovery. And so it was like, oh, okay, I got my friend back. And so but then Monday was coming, and she's going to get the medication again, and that it's going to start the whole process all over. So it would be like a week and a half. She would say, okay, yeah, I'm ready to eat. And, you know, the doctor said, yeah, you can eat whatever you want. So it was always like shakes, and she wanted Wiener Schnitzel all the time. So I got a little reluctant to ask like what she wanted to eat, because I was getting tired of it. But I was like, well, if she says it, then. So I'm like, hey, what do you want to eat? Because I didn't want to be making food and then her needing me. So I was just like, well, we can just go together to get you out, because there's part of that was getting her out, you know. And so yeah, there was a lot to that whole thing, but just attending to her and her needs, and like helping her through it, that was what I wanted to do. And then like my process of feeling it, like I did a group coaching thing, because I was finding I was eating my emotions, and I was like, instead of dealing with them, I was eating them. And so here I am putting on weight, and I'm like, you know, obviously the gyms weren't open. And so it's just like, man, what do I do with this? I didn't want to leave her because she's at home. And so it was hard. It was hard.
And you're a people person.
Exactly. So I don't have people, right? So there's no community. And so I'm like, man, this is just sitting inside me. I mean, all the things we talk about with our clients, right? And so it's just sitting inside me, and I'm like, I can't keep doing this. So after the 8 weeks of the hard stuff and the 12 weeks of the lighter stuff, about towards the end of the lighter stuff, well, we haven't got to that part, but our neighbors invited me to a gym that was open. They did the workouts outside. And I knew I wasn't in shape to do those kind of workouts, but I was like, you know what, I gotta start somewhere, but at least I'll be with people. That's what drew me, is being with people. And so I'm like, okay. And so I just started going, and it was just, it's become an outlet for me to be able to move, to sweat it out, to make connections with people. But when I share our story of Veronica having breast cancer, other women saying, oh yeah, I've had it, my friends had it, it's like, wow, just hearing how courageous people have been, and to hear their story. And then, just these relationships, that I've been able to cultivate over my time of working out there. And I see, like, it for the first time, I mean, I've always wanted to marry physical and then emotional and relational and spiritual health together. I've always wanted to do that. But when I saw this gym, and I'm like, wow, these people, what they've been able to create here, and how they bring people together just through a 45-minute workout is amazing. And then and they focus on the physical side. And I'm thinking, what if we introduce the emotional and the relational and the spiritual side to a gym like this? Then they get everything. Because I mean, in the reality, we can change our bodies. That's not hard. Like, we stick to a diet, we stick to a calorie deficit, we work out hard, our body's going to respond, right? I know that as an athlete, like, I can do it anytime I want. But at the end of the day, what I'm really looking for is community, to be with people, to work through some of these things that, this emotional baggage that maybe I've brought from a past relationship, or a home life that I didn't realize played a significant role in how I'm thinking. And because I'm using food and drugs and alcohol as a way to cope, I continue to put on weight, and then I take it off and I put on weight, because sometimes I'm feeling good and sometimes I'm not feeling so good. So it's creating a space, that this is where I think God's having us go to Tennessee, is to create a space for people to get the whole package. The physical, emotional, relational, and spiritual helps, like the help that they want. And creating an environment and a way of life where we can bring these like-minded, kind of like CrossFit culture. Like, they go, man, those guys are going. And so I want to go, but I also want to meet people where they're at. I want to use the skills that we've developed as therapists to help create a space where people can actually, where them being vulnerable and courageous looks the same as cleaning a 80 to 90 pound dumbbell over their head, a clean squat, right? So we think about that. Oh, wow, you can lift that much. But over there in that room, there's a group of men and women that are actually sharing their heart, pouring out their heart. That is just as strong as lifting those dumbbells up.
Just as impressive. Yeah. But people don't take selfies in their therapist couch.
Right.
Yeah,
like everyone's checking in at their gym, or Orange Theory, or
that's right.
But there's not too many people are checking in at their therapist office. Yeah.
And that's the goal, is to normalize that part, to recognize, hey, that room over there is just as important as this room over here. It's just as important. And so, because they're all interconnected, right? We don't go through life without experiencing and feeling and knowing that, okay, I need to want more. I grew up the fat kid, get picked on and got made fun of time and time and time again. Well, it's because food was a safe place, or something that we can utilize to make me feel comfortable. And I just continued to do it, becoming that emotional eater. And so I recognize I don't have an issue with food. I have an issue with dealing with my feelings and my emotions, and sharing those and resolving those. And when I don't want to do the work, it's easy to just eat them. And so in this time, since the I started working at the gym, I've done a lot of work, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure, honey, God's got us going in this direction to open a gym and offer coaching services to individuals that, who knows, maybe they would not be open to it, in any other way. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
So do you feel like this dream, this vision that you have, is it like a detour or a change from your Love Big uh,
Yes.
ministry?
So, yeah, love big, love wide was, so love big for your God-given purpose, love wide to accept and connect with love. So this fits. I think down the road, I will be doing more speaking, whether it be at churches or community events, that sort of thing. But the message, it falls right into it. It flows right into it because it's a way of life, and I believe it's Christ's way of life for us to live and be in community, to live bigger than ourselves. So though we're actually working on our bodies, our minds, and our souls, it's still for the purpose that is bigger than ourselves, leading our families towards Christ and leading communities towards Christ. And we do that by accepting and connecting in love. Right. And so there's a way to do it. And I think about what Jesus's purpose was, always for something bigger. He wanted to die. The dying for our sins was always bigger. And his love was as far as the east is from the west, because when they hung him on the cross, he was laid out there. And so it's like, that's great symbolism for us in serving others and being able to serve the communities that God's putting us in. And, just being the hands and feet of Jesus. I think I love sports. It's a natural fit for me. Like, I mean, I could wear tennis shoes and shorts and, a dry fit shirt. Like, that's okay. It's not going to look traditional where I'm going to wear a polo, khakis, nice shoes. We're going to be in the office. You're going to sit on that couch. I'm going to sit on that couch. It's not going to be that traditional, but it's going to be just as impactful.
Mm-hmm. That's right in line with our friend Ernesto's conference. Not your typical psychotherapist.
Exactly. I've had many.
You have a different picture of what it could look like.
Yeah, I had many different many talks with Ernesto, and I just know that this is the route that I'm supposed to go and help people, because I want to meet them where they're at. And these are the people that I know that I can identify with. I may obviously not know how they feel. I may not know what experiences got them there or brought them there. But I sure do know how to connect with people and encourage them and inspire them. And that I know that's my gifting. And so having them at a place where that's the feedback they're getting, and not the opposite of, like, you're still not good enough. You could be doing stronger. You could be doing better. Like, as I correct, I'm like, hey, that's good, but we can probably get more out of your lift if you do it like this. Or if we're doing a group coaching session, asking the questions like, well, what would it say about you if you were actually able to see it differently? You can make it work for you. What would that look like? And how might you show up in that way? So just planting seeds and hoping that they're able to develop for themselves, the way of life that they're really seeking and looking for.
Yeah. Veronica, it's fun to hear your husband talk about his passion, his heart. You're married to a dreamer. So what's it like for you? Because even though it seems like it's a natural evolution, and as an athlete, like it seems natural and it's a fit, but it also seems like it's a surprise. Like, it wasn't something that it's like a new thing. So what's this like?
We've talked about it a lot, and we both are on the same page. We truly feel God is leading us to do this. to love through this. I mean, kind of, I guess it's a ministry, loving people and inviting them into community. And, yeah, Jeff dreams big and he loves it. And, I'm 100% on board. Not only because Jeff wants that, and this is what Jeff is dreaming of, but I really feel that God's put it on both of our hearts. And so with that, again, we put God first, and we as a team are committed to do what God wants us to do. And here we go. We packed up our house, got it ready, packed it up while I was going through chemotherapy. And
wow,
Jeff did all of everything that needed to be done to get our house ready to be sold, and packing and putting things in storage and just everything you could imagine, and just really made it happen. And, of course, he asked, what do you think? How do you feel? Do you think this is what God wants? And at first I was like, no, let me think about it a little more. Let me pray about it a little more. And then, I was finding like, what? As he kind of was starting to paint a couple of rooms inside, I said, let's not put those pictures up. Let's pack them up. I think it's time. I know in my heart that God is saying sell. It's time to sell the house and start moving toward that next plan, the next season of your life. And so with that, we did. We put the house up for sale. It sold. We moved into an apartment, back to apartment life. And, we're excited. We're really excited. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a life coach. Jeff is teaching me a lot. We talk about it a lot. And I think, my piece is, I have a heart to listen to people, and just, even with church, the church that we're going to now, some of the younger ladies come to me and ask and are going through, relationship difficulties, divorce, they have kids, they don't have kids. And, I feel like that could be my piece, whether it's men or women, just kind of listening and not coaching, giving that, that piece, but just listening, and letting them know that they're being heard, and that what they're going through is valid, and it is a life struggle, and it is important to get it out and to talk about it, and just to love them for who they are, no matter what they're going through.
Yeah, that's so important. And just like Jeff, you on stage speak to hundreds of people, you're good to go, you're fine. But Veronica, like just more like one-on-one, and just like listening, like
I was a little nervous, but I think every Sunday I get a little more comfortable as I speak to different people, and just kind of learn a little bit more about different people, that go to church with us, and just kind of, asking God, just give me that a little more Holy Spirit, to know that you're right there with me, and whatever comes out of my mouth is, what he wants me to be saying. And, I feel just every day, just a little more. And so I feel like maybe that's going to be my piece, because right now, physically, doing the workouts, I'm not there yet. Prior to the chemotherapy and the diagnosis, I would have said, yes, 100%, I'm there. I can help, in the physical working out, but, I'm working up to that. I'm not quite there, but, the listening part, 100%.
Well, the listening, but then also just going through, what does it look like to get healthy and recover after cancer? You're an example in that way too. It's so neat. Like, just, you got God put you together.
Oh yeah.
To go through this journey of life, and it's exciting. I don't know. You mentioned before we hit record that you're moving to Tennessee. I don't know if we said that here in the interview. So it's Tennessee. So you're you sold your house, you're an apartment, and just kind of waiting for that. So like, what's next for you guys?
So we sold the apartment. We sold the house, live in the apartment because we want to finish Veronica's treatment. And so then we'll be leaving at the end of July. We already have another apartment set up out there. We want to get familiar with the area before we decide on purchasing. We want God to kind of lead us. And so we know what church we're going to end up going to already. And that's been a God-led thing. And I'm like, wow, that's just crazy. Because I was concerned about like, where are we going to go? Do we have to do the church hopping or, So a buddy of mine connected me with somebody out there, and then the church that's out there. So I've been listening to the sermons. I'm like, oh yeah, that's where we're going to go. So we're going to start off there, grow our roots and see what they have for, where God wants us to do the, LBLW fitness part of this whole thing. And so what does that look like? And, we'll go from there, so we'll grow that and help people in the community, get to know people in the community. I think that's what I get excited about, because I'm like, I'll say hi to everybody and anybody. Like that's, in California, it's a challenge because people are kind of like in their own shell and they don't really want to, do that naturally. So
it's too big. It's too big down there.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's got their own agenda. So it's when I say hi, I'm intentional. I'm like, hey, how you doing? They like look at me like I come from another planet. But we've been back there to visit, so I'm excited to be around people that enjoy the same things, that like to talk and engage and build community. So it's super exciting because I know this is God driven, and it's been step by step by step. It's like there's been times where it's nothing, and then there's times like, okay, here it is. Because in the nothing time, we didn't need actually any guidance because we already knew. And so as we got closer, we started looking for houses to rent, and I'm like, these houses are going up and down, and then some don't even have air conditioning. I'm like, that's weird. Like, how does the house not have air conditioning out there? It gets hot there. I'm like, what do you, I just felt God saying, what, check out some apartments. So we found one, and the cost of living is just significantly different. The facility appears to be nice. I mean, that may change when we go out there, but I don't know. But it seems really nice.
From the outside, my sister's there in Tennessee now, and she kind of drove by with the video. Here's your apartment, and sent us. She's like, it looks really cute and nice, and so I feel like God's led us in the right direction. I think we'll be okay.
And I think just being humble, to go from a home to an apartment to another apartment, and not having that pressure. No, we need to buy a house. We should be in a house. Yeah. I don't, I'm humble enough to say, I'll be in an apartment for a little bit. That's fine. Doesn't matter to me, because I want to end up where God wants me, and I want to be utilized in the way that He wants me to be utilized. And I think at this point in our lives, that we're making the choices that He wants us to make. And so I'm not worried about opinions of others. I don't actually go to anybody else. I just I pray about it, meditate about it. Like, okay, God, what have you, what do you have for us? And let's go with it. And Veronica and I will pray about it. And we're like, okay, let's go. So one day, I said, this is my saying, I live the dream one day at a time. Living the dream one day at a time. I don't look forward because I don't want to get anxious. I don't look backwards because I don't want to get depressed. Just living the here and now. All day, every day.
Big leap of faith.
Big, yeah.
Yeah.
And the interesting part is, I don't know about you, does it feel like a big leap of faith?
In my mind, it feels like a big leap of faith, but honestly, I don't have any anxiety over moving. I mean, my parents are here,
Yeah, we'll be back.
Kids are here, I mean, I have one daughter in Michigan, but everybody's pretty much here, both of our families. And, so with that, we know we will definitely be back, and we'll try to be back as often as we can, but I don't feel anxious 1 minute, one little bit. There's other things in life that I have so much anxiety over. And then I think, oh my gosh, we're making this huge move. Why am I anxious about this tiny little thing? So it kind of puts, I don't know, not being anxious over the Tennessee move kind of puts it into perspective for me with my other anxieties. So it kind of calms my other anxieties. So yeah, we're excited. We're really excited.
I'm excited for you guys too. It's gonna be fun to see the adventure. And it's soon.
It's soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're 50 days away from actually leaving. Yeah, it's 50 days.
So as we wrap up our time today, any last things you want to share for listeners?
For me, it's personal. Ladies, please just do your monthly checks, your self-examinations. It's so important. Finding something early can, be very benign, or even if it is something that's, cancer, it can be taken care of much easier. So just, do your monthly checks. It's worth it in the long run. It's just a short process. And if you don't know how, or you're embarrassed, or, ask your physician. Your physician has pamphlets on it, or, I'm sure, amongst other women, someone is doing it. Many are doing it, and nobody is going to not want to help you. Everybody's going to want to help each other when it comes to that sort of thing. So that's just close to my heart. For sure.
Yeah. And I mean, love big, love wide every day, all day, loving big for your God-given purpose, and love wide to accept and connect with the people around you in love. And I think that's how this world's going to change, is when we are extending our hands out in love, our hearts out in love, and we are actively listening, actively healing, and actively connecting with one another. I think that's where the world's going to change. And we do that one day at a time. There's no sense in putting pressure on us to heal overnight. It's impossible. We didn't get hurt overnight. And maybe circumstantially there's pieces of that, but if we can look at somebody's life history, there's probably been hurt all the way down to the very, very young ages of their life. And so being more intentional with our lives, be more intentional in how we show up, who we connect with. Are we putting ourselves in those relationships that are going to grow us in a way that is going to help other people? Really having discernment in that, and being people of faith, like allowing God and the Holy Spirit to guide and direct us. Not being too quick to run into this direct. I'm the dreamer, so I'm like, hey, let's do this tomorrow, right? And let's go. We got to do it now. So it's the wisdom. The dreamer will think it, but the wisdom will slow it down and be like, okay, let's put a process together to get there, and see what that looks like. Let's see what people that we can put around us that can help us in this if they're willing. And so, putting together a team of community around you, I think it's extremely important, so we can be vulnerable with, so we can share our lives with, so we don't do it alone. God didn't create us to do this life alone. And that is one of the things that, as I've grown with Veronica over this past year and shared in social media. I just wanted you guys to know that we acknowledge we're not alone. And I wanted to share this information so other people can pray, and they can see what it's like as best as we could.
Yeah, you're not trying to do it alone. Yeah,
no. And so it's just that, being vulnerable, being courageous, sharing our lives with each other. When I'm working with clients, I say, hey, do you have like one or two friends that you can open up to, that you can confide in, that you can share your life with. They may or may not have any answers for you, but the goal is to just get it, what's inside, out. Because if it's inside, it has so much power, and it keeps you from really being who you want to be. And so if you can get that out, and then we're meeting once a week, and you start utilizing the tools that you've been given, you start getting free from that baggage that once weighed you down.
That's right.
And so it's just living in that day-to-day process, living the dream one day at a time.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. It's been super encouraging and fun to finally talk with you, Jeff, and to meet you, Veronica. Thank you for being brave to join your husband on this. I hope listeners will be encouraged by the Ortizes, what they've been through, and also just their faith and trust in God. I'll put links in the show notes on YouTube and the podcast. But do you want to share like the websites for folks that want to connect with you?
Yeah, I mean, for now they can connect with us on Instagram. So mine is Jeff_Ortiz_LBLW for Love Big Love Wide, and
mine is Veronica_Ortiz_LBLW.
So we have a website, but we're going to modify it to, you can go to lovebiglovewide.com, but that's for more on my speak when I was heading into the speaking realm, and that which will happen down the road, but I think God's got some good things going before. So we're out there. Connect with us. Would love to hear, like after you hear the podcast, if you have any words that you would like to share with us, we're all about that. So
or if someone needs prayer, we're open to that as well. They can, I don't know what it's called on Instagram, where they can message you on the side and
direct message, honey.
Yeah.
Slide into your DMs for prayer.
Okay. So, I mean, if somebody doesn't, have anybody and, they need prayer, always happy to pray for.
Awesome. That's so awesome, Veronica. Yeah. All right, guys. I will see you on there.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Nice meeting you.
God bless you.
Blessed.